empowered thousands. Ever had a All right, so this is a first. I mentioned this is the first time we're in this room. This is the first time as well that we've ever had a keynote speaker at our Empowered Success Day. So today, I am pleased to introduce to you Mechelle Poler. So Mechelle is originally from Caracas, Venezuela. She is the founder of Hello Fears, a social movement that has reached over 70 million people worldwide and has empowered thousands to choose growth over comfort. Her work has been featured on Forbes, CNN, The Today Show, Fox, and BuzzFeed, among many others. If you've ever wondered what your life would be like if you weren't afraid, you're about to find out. Now, she's a bit shy, so please help welcome to the stage our keynote speaker for Empowered Success, Mechelle Poler.
Come on. Woo! Come on, you guys. You have to dance with me. Yeah! Buenos Aires. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to those who danced and to those who didn't. Actually, the idea was for no one to dance. Yeah, but I do this every day at corporate events. I go on stage, I start dancing, and everybody looks at me like, what the heck is she doing? Seriously. So I tend to ask the question like, hey, who thought that was awkward? And you were like, please someone dance with her. Everybody raise their hands every single time, because that's the whole point, actually, to make you guys uncomfortable, to make me uncomfortable, so I can talk about the comfort zone, right? That's what I'm here to do. But, oh my God, you're so fun. Yeah, that didn't work here. Maybe you are already brave. Well, we'll see about that. So, before we get into comfort zones and all of that, I need water. That's too much dancing, right? Too early. Much better. All right, now, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about your earliest memory of fear. Can you remember a fear you had when you were very little, maybe 2, 3, 4 years old? Yeah? I mean, who here was afraid of clowns? Raise your hand. Yeah? Who was afraid of the dark? Raise your hand. Who here is still afraid of the dark, out of curiosity? Yeah, me too. All right, so my earliest memory of fear goes all the way back to when I was 3 years old, and I still remember how terrified I was to walk down the aisle. Not as the bride, but as the flower girl, of course. You would assume that a 3-year-old girl would be delighted to wear a big, white, puffy dress, just like the bride, and throw petals everywhere, right? Not me. I was afraid to walk by myself and not be able to find my mom at the end of the aisle. So at the age of 7, 4 years after that picture was taken, my parents had a hunch that my shyness was not necessarily emotional. So they took me to the doctor, and they found out that I couldn't see, like, at all. I needed glasses. For 7 years, they didn't realize this, come on. So parents in the audience, if you have a really shy kid, take them to the eye doctor. Right? Because for the longest time, my comfort zone was defined by a 10-foot radius circle that surrounded my mom or my dad. But the truth is that we all have a comfort zone, and we know it pretty well because we live there most of the times. We know exactly where it starts and where it ends, and they are unique to each individual, just like your personality or your body is. So the things that are uncomfortable to me may be things that you can easily do. For example, eating an oyster. Yeah, which I have to say I tried. And then I couldn't. And so I had to spit it out. And then they're so expensive. I had to try the same one again and again. Also, getting a Brazilian wax. Oh my God, right? It's so uncomfortable and painful at the same time. And also, doing things like slow rafting, that can be terrifying for some people, mostly when you're trying to take a selfie. But the good news is that comfort zones can change from one day to the other. They can expand as we face our fears or contract as we limit ourselves. And by the age of 26, I had such a reduced comfort zone that if I kept going in that direction, I was going to end up being afraid to leave my apartment by age 60. And it's not like I was afraid of one, two, or three things. I was actually afraid to feel the fear. So at a very young age, I understood exactly the limits to my comfort zone, and I made sure that no matter what I did, I would never go past it. But it's not like I had a miserable childhood or anything because of this. Actually, I had a pretty decent life growing up. I had a nice group of friends, passion for art, good grades in school, nice family. I was achieving things. Or I thought I was. To me, life felt like a checklist that I had to go through according to society's expectations. Graduate from high school, check. Go to college, check. Find prestigious job, get married, buy a home, have kids, right? I was doing everything I was expected to, until it hit me. Who am I checking these boxes for? Who am I truly living for? I mean, my parents, my professors, my mentors, they're all certainly happy with my outcome. But am I? I can say that I'm comfortable, but can I say I'm genuinely happy? So a couple of years ago, I realized that I had two options. I could continue checking society's boxes like it was expected of me, or I could, well, I mean, I was already married, right? I just needed to start having kids, buy a home, have grandkids, and die. Pretty good, right? 4 things left. Yeah. Or I could have the courage to create my own set of things and pursue those as well. Move to New York, give a TED Talk, become an entrepreneur, travel the world, write a book, impact others. So I had to start somewhere, and moving to New York is something I've always wanted to do since I was very little, but I never really dared to until a couple of years ago when I decided to do a master's in branding at the School of Visual Arts. And I'm not going to lie, it was not easy at first. I kept trying to control everything around me, and I quickly realized New York is not for the fearful. But I was there with one mission, right? To go to school, graduate, that was it. And that's when things started to change. Where would you like to be 10 years from today? Have you thought about that? That's the question that my professor asked us on the first day of class. She challenged me and the rest of the students to think about our perfect lives 10 years from that day. And at that moment, I knew that I was about to have a panic attack. Right? Who here has done something like this where you try to plan your life ahead? Raise your hand if you've ever done it. Yeah, let me tell you one thing about it. It's freaking scary because you want to dream big, but not too much. You want to sound ambitious, but humble. You start dreaming of a 150-foot yacht, and somewhere down the line, you settle for a freaking kayak. Right? You don't want to disappoint future you with big plans that went nowhere and then feel like a big failure, right? So I started to write down semi-ambitious things that I thought could make me happy 10 years from that day. And I wrote down things like, in 10 years, after working for some of the best companies in New York, I finally become an entrepreneur. I'm working with Adam, my husband, on building our business, whatever it is. But we travel a lot together for work, and we love it. We're being invited to speak at companies and conferences about our accomplishments, and we're buying our first condo in Manhattan. So I wrote my plan in April of 2015. And then this is what happened next. In July of that same year, I started my own movement. Then in October, I gave my first TEDx talk. And shortly after, I started receiving invitations to speak at schools, companies, events, and organizations around the world. In July of the following year, Adam joined me full-time on developing our business. And just a year later, we bought this beautiful condo in Manhattan. I'm kidding, guys. Yeah, this is not really my apartment. It's actually Uma Thurman's condo, right? It's so beautiful. So for now, I just hang out with her. Yeah, it's easier, cheaper. Yeah, so if you've never, well, let me tell you something. Besides the apartment, right, I accomplished most of the things that I wrote down in a matter of months. And actually, as far as the apartment goes, we decided to do the opposite. We realized we were traveling so much from one event to the other that we decided to live nomadic for a whole year. So we put everything we own in a storage, and we were just traveling the world. So if you've never thought about planning your life ahead, I highly suggest that you think about it, because it is powerful AF. But as Jim Carrey, as Jim Carrey says, you can't visualize things and then go eat a sandwich. You kind of need to prove to the universe how much you want the things you envision. And to do so, you need to get uncomfortable. So right after writing my plan in April of 2015, the professor asked us to identify one crucial obstacle that could get in the way of our dream life. And when I realized that fear was the one thing that could keep me from achieving my dreams, I embarked on a project that changed my life for good. It is called the 100-Day Project, and this was the third part of our class assignment. So first we had to do the 10-year plan, then we had to identify the crucial obstacle. Finally, we had to start a 100-day project of our choice, which means we had to choose one thing that we want to do repeatedly for 100 days in a row. It can be anything, as long as it's something that helps you grow or improve in some way. So think about it. If you would want to do this, right, choose one thing that you want to do for the next 100 days, what would that thing be? What is that thing that you want to work on? And I'll give you a couple of examples from other people in my class, all right? So for example, my friend Maddie, who used to wear heavy makeup every day of her life, and I'm not exaggerating, the day that she took that picture, she was just going to the gym. Right? So she decided to break up with makeup for 100 days and take good care of her skin. And the result was pretty amazing to see live. Her face completely changed in a period of 100 days. That's awesome, right? Yeah, now, yeah, you want to clap? You can clap. Yay, Maddie! And then my friend Kyle, he did 100 inventions. Every day he would sketch a prototype of something that could make his life easier and the world a better place. And then I decided to become a braver person, not only for myself, but for my family and for my future kids. I come from a family of World War II survivors, where half of my family were killed by the Nazis in concentration camps. But my grandparents were lucky because they were able to survive the camps and escape to Venezuela, where they were able to start from scratch, right? But their fears, yeah, yay, grandparents. Thank you. Yeah, so they did that. They were very lucky, right? But then their fears never went away. In fact, they were carried from generation to generation. So my mom was raised with lots of fears, and so was I. So when I heard about the 100-day project, I thought this was the perfect opportunity for me to go after my fears, break my family's fear chain, and become a braver person. So I decided to face 100 fears in a period of 100 days and document the entire process on YouTube. From the smallest things that were limiting my everyday life to fears I never thought I would be able to conquer.
Mechelle Poler decided that she was sick of living her life in fear of the unknown and the unexpected, so she decided to embrace it. Every day for 100 days, she's pledged to do something that scares her.
I'm here with Mechelle Poler in Times Square, New York City, where she is living 100 days without fear.
100 miedos en 100 días.
Mechelle decided to spend 100 days conquering her fears. 100 days. What I really believe that Mechelle is experiencing is tapping into her inner strength that was there all along.
Thank you. So, if you thought that facing those fears was scary, uploading the videos to YouTube, that was a whole fear by itself. And I think you can relate to this, right? You sometimes have to go on live Facebook and be on camera and transmit what you're doing to the whole world. That is so, that's terrifying, guys. So yes, picture this. One night, I decided that I wanted to face my fear of singing in public. So I chose the one place where they had a real band, a real stage, and a real crowd. And as I was going through the list of songs, what I realized is that the only song I knew from their entire list was Rolling in the Deep. Right, by Adele. She's like the best singer in the world, and I'm not. So when they called my name, my heart was about to jump off my chest. But I was there, and I was determined to face my fear. So I went up there, grabbed my mic, started my song, and shortly after, I realized how bad of a singer I am. What? And I still had to go through the entire song. Those were the longest 3 minutes and 49 seconds of my life. But as soon as the song was finally over, I could hear one person clapping and screaming from across the room. And you guessed it, my husband was there. So if you thought that this was the scary part of the challenge, no, that was just the easy part. The scary part comes when I have to go home, sit through my horrible footage, edit my video, and upload that thing to YouTube for the entire world to see. But as I was editing the video, I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe it's not that bad. Do you guys want to see it? All right. Amazing, right? It was so good. I felt so proud of myself. So I went to Adam and I showed him this, and I'm like, what do you think? And he was like, seriously? Like, Mechelle, I don't think this counts as a fear. I mean, you're clearly replacing your voice with Adele's. And he's not a big Adele fan, so I figured that if he noticed, maybe more people can notice. So I had to go back, re-edit my video, and this is what I actually uploaded to YouTube. Terrible. It's so bad. Yay. So yes, YouTube can be pretty intimidating, right? Facebook, Instagram, social media in general can be very intimidating. But it's also a wonderful tool, right? That can help us inspire, entertain, even teach something to someone from one side of the world to the other. And it was thanks to YouTube that my project resonated with millions. So imagine, day 40 of the project, all right? I wake up, check my phone, and the first thing I see is my face all over the internet. Every single website started sharing my story, my project, my videos, and not only cool websites, but celebrities started sharing this as well. Ashton Kutcher, Sofia Vergara, Zoe Deschanel, and for some reason, even the rapper Lil Wayne thought this was inspiring. But this was not the best part. Shortly after this happened, I started to receive messages from people all over the world saying that thanks to my project, they were inspired to go after their own fears and change their lives. And that's something I was not expecting because I was not really trying to inspire anybody. I was just doing this very personal project, right? I was being very terrified on camera every single day, and that's it. So I was not expecting that, but then, do you know what happens when you go viral and you have so much attention from the media? You not only receive love and support like you're hoping. Have you heard of trolls? Yeah, and not like the movie, because those are cute. They have pink hair, right? I mean real trolls. They live on the internet and they can be seriously mean. So I decided to face criticism, right? Because who here is not afraid of criticism, right? We are all. So perfect. I needed 60 more fears to face. So what I did is I started recording myself reading the worst comments online. And I'm not going to lie, I felt pretty bullied and attacked as I was reading all those mean comments. But you know what was even more hurtful? To hear from people around me, people who were not supportive of what I was doing, right? They were saying also mean comments. And you know what I thought at that point? Haters gonna hate, right? And we can't allow that to get in the way of our dreams or to define us in any way. But also, we can't ignore criticism. I think that we can be smart about it and use it to our advantage. So the way that I use criticism is as fuel. Every time that I hear a comment about me or what I'm doing in my work, I just want to go after my biggest fears and prove all those haters wrong. And actually, you know what? I just want to prove myself right. Yes.
Oh my god, I'm really scared of this one. These are some of the folks that we have here today.
So when a good friend, all right, one of my best friends, she suggested that I should pose nude in front of a drawing class as one of my fears, I started doubting if we're actually friends, right? Why would she say that? And so I completely freaked out on her. But then a couple of seconds later, I realized that my reaction was a clear sign that I'm terrified to face this fear. So, okay, I decided to say yes. We are still friends. And there I was, right, in front of a dozen people I've never seen in my life, wearing only my scarf as a robe, when the art teacher asked me to start. In that moment, I was so lost and so confused. I had no idea what to do. So my first reaction was to turn around and face the wall. I just couldn't face the students as I was dropping my scarf on the floor. And for the next couple of poses, I was completely petrified. I kept trying to cover myself with my arms and my legs, so I was like, pose number 2. Right? Because I kept thinking that the students were judging me, when in reality, they were there to fulfill their mission, to create beautiful art out of whoever posed in front of them. And that's when I realized how self-centered we sometimes are and how hard we are on ourselves. Turns out no one's judging us in the same way that we judge ourselves. And yes, right? And while I was so worried about exposing my body, there was this one guy who spent the entire class drawing my face. The entire class. Now, one of the funnest fears that I faced was dancing in the middle of Times Square like no one's watching. But at first, this was terrifying because I was the only one listening to the music. So can you imagine my embarrassment, right? So for the first couple of seconds, I was, like in my head, being very self-aware. But then I started to really enjoy the song, the moment, the mood, everything. And that's when other people started to join me. And suddenly, this became a party in the middle of Times Square. And that night, I got to experience, for the first time in my life, what living life to the fullest feels like. Have you ever experienced that? Because I heard about it in songs, movies, but I never experienced it myself until this day. And what I learned is that it only happens when we do the things we love like no one's watching. Because, when you can clap, yes. I love this audience, come on, it's amazing. We have to do the things we love like no one's watching, because when we forget that people are watching us and judging us, and we get to do what we do out of love and passion, we will not only do a better job at it, but we will enjoy the moment way more. Imagine yourself doing what you do without thinking of what other people may be thinking of you, right? Without having other people judge us on what we're doing, because we're so passionate about it that we just have to rock it. And that night, I not only made new friends and realized how much I enjoy dancing, mostly in public, but I created one of the most memorable videos for my channel.
We're here at Times Square. A lot of people around me, and I'm going to dance like no one's watching. So I have my music here. I'm ready to go dancing. Let's do this.
Woo! Thank you. Now, one of the hardest fears that I faced was my fear number 95, jumping from a high cliff into the water. So picture this. For this challenge, we decided to rent a car, drive for 2 hours to a water park where I can safely face my fear without hitting a rock, because that was not the challenge that day. It was just jumping, right? So I went to the place, I went up the hill, made the line. It was my turn. I was about to jump. And in that moment, I freeze. Ma'am, are you jumping or not? The lifeguard was pretty frustrated because there was a huge line of kids, as you can see there, right? Eager to run, jump, and make a splash. And there I was, completely frozen. I kept telling my feet to jump, but they wouldn't listen. Have you ever felt like this, paralyzed by fear? That's how I was feeling. So the lifeguard came back and he was like, dude, even the little kids are jumping. I'm like, that's not helpful. Thank you, though. But then a girl about this height, she came all the way to the front of the line and she was terrified, just like I was. But she was like shivering and having second thoughts. So I looked at her, she looked at me. You know when you see someone on the street and they're wearing your same shoes and you look at each other because you know? Just like that, but with fear, right? We're both terrified. And then a couple of seconds later, she looked down, took a deep breath, and she jumped. What the heck, right? We were not jumping. I thought that's what we agreed. Yeah. But then I started to feel so inspired by her because I thought if she did it, why can't I? So I approached the edge one more time. The lifeguard rolled his eyes one more time. And I looked down, she survived, good sign. So, so I started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4 for some reason. And I jumped. And that day, I learned the important difference between fearless and brave. Right? Yes. Because brave means that despite the fear, we have the courage to take action. And that is way more powerful and inspiring than being fearless. Because think about it, right? I saw all those little kids, they were jumping fearlessly, and I couldn't relate to them. I was not inspired by them. It was that girl who showed me her fear, and then she showed me her courage. That is what inspired me to take action. So if you want to inspire people on your team, it's not enough to say things like, you can do it, I have your back, I trust that you can. Those things are really not empowering. What is actually empowering is to take action yourself, mostly when it's hard. So it is okay to, it's okay to let our team know that we are scared, right? That what we're doing is uncomfortable, but that we still do it. That is empowering. Thank you. Now, for the last fear, number 100, I was approached by a big brand, 5 Gum. They wanted to sponsor my 100th fear. And my first reaction was to be excited and on board, obviously, right? Until I realized they wanted to have me rappel down from Rockefeller Center, right? And I still consider it. I mean, it was a huge opportunity for me, right? My face was going to be everywhere, but something deep down didn't feel right. Because I wanted this last challenge to go beyond a physical fear and have a more meaningful impact. So after much consideration, I decided to decline the brand's offer, and instead, I faced one of my biggest fears, public speaking. And I decided to do it at TEDx stage so I could share my story with the world and inspire hundreds of thousands to go after their fears. This decision, yes, thank you. This decision not only marked the beginning of my speaking career, but it showed me the importance of going after the things that feel right in our hearts, not being carried away by what may seem more glamorous. So let me take you back to the day when I faced my 100th fear. My 100th fear. There. Right there. My heart was beating so loud, I could almost hear it. Can you almost hear it? Right. It was super loud. So in that moment, the girl that is walking along with me, her only job was to make sure that I'm doing all right. But when she looks at me and smiles at me like, let's do this, Mechelle, and I don't smile back because I'm not ready to do this. I'm like about to start running in the opposite direction and like, bye. Yeah, in that moment, she grabs my shoulders and she's like, Mechelle, sweetie, you'll do fine, I promise. Come on, you'll do great. Think about it. What's the worst that could happen? Now, raise your hand if you've ever asked yourself or someone else this question before. Worst question ever. I now had like 1,000 negative thoughts running through my head because I was like, she's right, what's the worst that could happen? And then I'm like, wait, what if I forget my speech? What if I freeze? What if I disappoint my family who's in the audience, who traveled just for this event? What if I embarrass myself? And the worst one, what if I fail, right? So that's when it hit me. How am I supposed to gather the courage that I need if I'm only considering the worst case scenarios, right? It was a matter of switching the question around and asking myself, Mechelle, what's the best that can happen? That's when I started to see the possibilities that were hiding behind my fears. And I thought, what if I do a good job? What if I enjoy it? What if I make my family proud or myself proud? What if I actually inspire people in the audience to take action? Suddenly, I felt no more fear, only excitement. And that's when I heard the presenter say, give it up for Mechelle Poler. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So when I first started this project, I thought that the end goal was to eliminate fear, right? Get rid of it. But along the process, I realized that fear is our ally, and it's there to keep us safe and alive. So we don't want to eliminate fear. But the more we say yes to new experiences and new opportunities, the more we allow other emotions to jump in. And some of these emotions I never even experienced before in my life. But the most important thing here is to make sure that we can keep fear in its place and not let it spill over into the other emotions. Because by doing this, I was able to expand my comfort zone to new frontiers. Things I wouldn't dare to try a year ago became my favorite food. My fear of doing public speaking became my career. And saying yes, my favorite new answer. So as a way to better understand my fears, what I did is I divided fear into 3 categories: universal, cultural, and personal fears. Turns out we're all born with a set of universal fears. So it doesn't matter where you're from or how old you are, you're probably afraid of either spiders, I'll leave that for a little bit, needles, scary, and the very popular fear of heights. So raise your hand if you're at least afraid of one of these. Please be honest. You should be, because they can totally kill you. Yeah, that's why we have to listen to our universal fears. But as we grow, we develop a series of cultural fears that revolve around our need for love and belonging. And these are the ones that are screwing us up big time. Every culture has its own set of rules and expectations from society. Don't do this, don't say that, don't wear that, right? Society creates fears to make us behave in a certain way and shape our personality to fit its standards. So the fear of not belonging, not fitting in, not being loved or accepted are dictating the majority of the choices we make and the way that we present ourselves to others. And I get it. Belonging can be amazing. It's what enables community, friendship, team building. But if we're not careful, our need to fit in may hurt our authenticity. And we live in a time where authenticity is one of the most valuable assets that anyone could have. Right? It's so important. Yes, and I'll tell you a story about it. So a couple of years ago, when I started speaking, I was invited to speak at an all-women's event at ESPN, and I was very excited and nervous as usual, but then something happened before it was my turn to speak that took all of my confidence away. The speaker that went right before me was the most exceptional speaker you could think of. Carla is a vice chairman at Morgan Stanley, and she's a renowned author. So she was witty, eloquent, insightful, experienced, literally everything you want from a speaker, and you should hire her next year because she's so awesome, and you guys would love her. She's amazing. So the more I heard her present, the more I kept comparing myself to her until I started to feel like the biggest imposter in the room, hoping not to get caught during my presentation. So at the end of the day, I was ready to go home when the organizer asked me to stay and go to a happy hour event with the attendees, and I was hesitant to go, and so glad that I went. Because that night, so many people approached me to tell me that I was the highlight of the day for them, that I was perceived as a real person they could identify with. And that's when I realized that my imposter syndrome was making me believe that I needed to be more like Carla to be appreciated. When in reality, I just needed to become myself and own what makes me authentic. So think, who is your Carla? Who is the person you've been comparing yourself to, right? Instead of owning who you are. Because this reminds me of a few lines from Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art. Our job in this lifetime is not to shape ourselves into some ideal we imagine we ought to be, but to find out who we already are and become it. Which takes me to my last set of fears, the personal fears, that are closely related to our self-esteem need. So in order to feel good about ourselves, we limit our growth. We hold ourselves back from taking risks, trying new things, or venturing into the unknown because we know failing is a possibility, one that we don't want to be held accountable for. But after embracing this new lifestyle where daring is now my first choice, what I learned is that the enemy of success is not failure. It's actually comfort. Comfort is what keeps us from going after new prospects, right? Comfort convinces us to stay with partners we no longer love and in places or cities we cannot get much out of. Comfort begs us to look down at our phones instead of sparking a conversation with the person sitting right next to us. And it tells us things like, good things come to those who wait. But as Da Vinci put it, people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. Which takes me to my day 101, the day the project, 101, there you go. The day the project was finally over, right? I already faced my 100th fear, delivered my speech. Now what? People started asking me, and I had no idea. I mean, I only planned this far, right? Day 1, day 100, that's it. So day 101, I was lost. And I thought about going back to my old job in advertising, right? If they're willing to take me, because I kind of quit on YouTube, so maybe they don't want me back? Who knows? Bad idea, guys. So then Adam showed up, and he was like, Mechelle, what if you continue growing this movement, you turn it into something big, and then you make this your job? What if you could inspire people for a living? Have you ever, yes, but have you guys ever been in a situation where you have two options, and the one you want the most is the scariest one? That's how I was feeling. So I started going in this roller coaster of emotion, and I hate roller coasters. Yeah, can you see how miserable I was? And then how happy Adam was? And did you see the other guy? He was like really happy. Right? Like a little kid. I don't know him. Yes, so I don't like real roller coasters. I don't like emotional roller coasters, right? So what I realized is that I was in between two options. Going back to my old job, right? Which was a decision based on fear, comfort, and safety, or building my own movement, which was a decision based on growth and progress. Life will always give us options. Some will take us back into our comfort zone. Others will challenge us but help us grow. So the most important thing here is to make sure that we can identify which one is the growth choice and choose that one despite the fear that it may bring. In fact, that's the best way to tell them apart because most of the times the growth option is the scariest one. So, according to Jeffrey Gray, a psychologist, there are two primary systems in our brain determining and influencing every decision that we make: the behavioral inhibition system and the behavioral activation system. The behavioral inhibition system responds to risk and stop us from taking action, right? So, to give you an example, when I'm speaking really fast now because my timer is running off and I still have more content. Sorry. So, yes. Behavioral inhibition system. To give you an example, okay, of this, when I started this presentation dancing all crazy, and I asked you to join me, those of you who ignore the fact that music is playing and someone's asking you to dance, you were reacting to the behavioral inhibition system, right? So you stayed in your seat comfortable, and you thought about all the possible risks involved in this decision, like what if I draw too much attention to myself, what if I embarrass myself, or what if I'm having too much fun and I can't stop, right? Yeah, it happens. Then those of you who started dancing, like right there, you were reacting to the behavioral activation system that responds to reward and encourages us to take action. So in that split second, you thought about possible rewards and you decided to join me, right? Maybe you wanted to show off your moves or you wanted to get some energy. I don't know. The thing is that every comfort-based decision that we make is tied to the behavioral inhibition system. And the growth choices are triggered to the behavioral activation system, right? Which is crazy. And the question is, how can we put growth into motion? And the answer is right here. We have to focus on the reward. And to do so, I ask myself the question, what's the best that can happen again and again? This question is so powerful because it allows us to see through fear and focus on the reward. So, for example, growth for you can be about starting your own personal project. What about a podcast, right? Where you can interview people, talk about what you're passionate about, and promote your business. I started a podcast and I'm loving it. It could also be about asking for help, which takes a lot of courage sometimes. But look at this room. Come on, you're surrounded by so many people that they want to see you grow, because if you grow, they'll grow. So dare to ask for help. Also, growth could be about standing up for yourself, because when you stand up for yourself, you also stand up for the industry, for doTERRA, for your peers. So we have to dare to do that more often. And finally, growth could be about going and grabbing the things you want the most. Because you know what? That is why I'm here today. Because you would think that the way that this happened is that doTERRA found out about me, reached out to me, begged me to be here today, right? And I said yes, and here I am. Not really. Actually, I saw stories from Rachel Hollis at the Leadership Convention earlier this year, right? I saw what an amazing event it was. I started researching doTERRA, loved everything about the brand, ordered some products, started using the oils, started loving everything about it. Yes, it's crazy. And I decided to send a DM via Instagram to doTERRA on Instagram, okay? Literally. And I said, hey guys, if you enjoyed Rachel Hollis, I'm sure you will like my content. So if you need an empowering speaker for your next convention, I'm here. And here I am, guys. Right? Thank you. Yep, all through a DM. Because what we learned is that the more uncomfortable we get, the greater the reward. It was only when I got really uncomfortable and decided to commit to my project full time, right? That's when I started to see real impact. Something that started as a school project turned into my mission, right? This is like a social mission that is encouraging people all over the world to say hello to their fears. And I would love for you to be part of this movement.
Hey Michelle, my name is Marcin and I'm from Poland.
My name is Evelyn Lawrence.
Jason Silva.
Hey, it's Chris Gillibo, and I'm from everywhere.
Panama.
Colorado.
Canada.
From Africa.
I'm Dutch, but I live in the south of Spain.
I faced the fear of writing to a girl with whom I haven't spoken to for a very long time.
I faced my fear of
traveling solo, a 3-month trip.
Fear of rejection.
Like I'm not good enough.
I fear of birds. Skydiving.
Cliff diving.
Get this pixie haircut.
Dance like nobody's watching.
Starting over at 29 years old. Me against the world.
Volunteering abroad for 6 months.
I wanted to do something more meaningful and I switched career.
I faced my fear of leaving home.
Of moving away from home.
Start from scratch for the second time.
I was definitely afraid of speaking in public.
Following my passion, pursuing my bliss, right? Living within the confines of my inspiration and somehow trusting that things will work out in the end.
The biggest fear that I faced is living alone, all by myself, with my own thoughts, and it's felt amazing.
It felt terrific.
Awesome. I feel passionate.
Beyond amazing.
And I feel free, so fulfilled.
Felt so satisfying.
I have done more living in the last 3 years than I have in 33.
Came home, felt more like myself than I have in a really long time.
I feel so good now.
I'm so grateful because my husband and children helped me cross that bridge.
And how I've felt since? Fantastic.
I learned to love myself as I am.
Now it's time for my big fear.
Thank you. Now, do you guys remember this list, right? So I think it's safe to say that I moved to New York, I gave a TEDx, became an entrepreneur, which led me to travel the world, impact others, and as of last week, we have a Hello Fears book available for pre-order on Amazon. Thank you. And I want so much for you to read this book that I'm going to give an exclusive live webinar to anybody who pre-orders the book today in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to be part of this live webinar where I'll be talking about the 100-day project, right? How to do a 100-day project and how to crush it, then all you have to do is go to this website that website right here, hellofears.com/book. Pre-order the book today, and then we'll get to spend an extra hour together in the next couple of weeks. So take a picture of that, and you can do that as soon as we're done with this session. And the reason, right, why I wanted to share this with you so much is because, do you guys know what this means? I checked all my boxes. It means I have to write new ones, right? So I guess we both have homework to do, guys, because I want you to write your own boxes. What are the things that you want to accomplish? What are the things that you care so much about that you're willing to get uncomfortable to make them happen, right? That's the question I want you to take away with you today. And before I forget, and this is the last thing, okay? Before I forget, I saw so many of you taking pictures of every single slide in the presentation, so I'm wondering, do you guys want me to send you my slides? Yay, perfect. So all you have to do is you have to take your phone out and text the word BRAVE1 to the number 44222. And it will ask for your email. So I'll email you all of my slides in the next couple of days. And if you don't have an American phone, you can either make an American friend and borrow their phone, or you can go to that website, mechellepoler.com/slides, enter your email there, and it's the same thing. I'll email all of you very soon, and I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that, to put your email. Not awkward. All right. Okay, so I hope that was enough time. If not, you have the next couple of hours to do this. And now I want all of you to stand up. Yay! Don't you hate it when speakers make you stand up? Me too. But it's worth it, I promise. So when I first started the presentation, first I was the only one dancing, and then some of you joined me, and then some of you clapped, which is not dancing, guys. So, and I get it, you were shy then, but you're so brave now. So this time, I want you to show me your best moves, because we need to bring the house down. Are you ready? Let's do this. Come on. Woo! You guys are pros. That was amazing, guys. Thank you all so much for your time today.